This is our Sprint 2 review video for AR Fortress West Point. So our agenda for this video is to display our product vision again, our sprint goal, capacity, the sprint products for this sprint, and reflection on this sprint, and then plans for future work. So our product vision is to create a fully functioning augmented reality application that displays Fort Willis in a fun, interactive way for all users. Our sprint goal was to meet with our stakeholder to finalize a purchase from our graphic designers, to implement improved models for our application, and to adjust the configuration of our user interface. Our capacity for this sprint was we expected to work 123.5 hours. However, we only completed 114 of those hours. If you look at our burn down chart, it shows that we planned for 136.5 hours. However, if you look at our Trello and were to add up our planned hours in the top corners of each card, you would notice that we actually only have 123.5 hours planned. We're unsure why this problem is happening. However, we did only plan for 123.5 hours.
On November 16th, we met with Colonel Sedgley, our history department stakeholder, in order to discuss the scope of the project and the requirements that he felt were necessary in order for us to accomplish his vision of where this project was heading. In this meeting, we discussed the merits of both a tabletop virtual reality app that we had seen in many other apps on the App Store versus the location-based image anchoring app that we had originally discussed in our scope earlier in this. Talking to Colonel Sedgley, we decided that we were going to change our scope in order to be tabletop anchoring based so that we could get further capabilities with our user interface, as well as make a more dynamic user experience that more people would be able to enjoy by moving it from an iPhone-based app to an iPad-based app, so we could get this out into the classroom so that cadets could see it and put a greater emphasis on the user interface of the application. Through this meeting, we also gained a greater understanding of the process for requesting money and how we were going to get graphics for this app. We bought two graphics for the app, a musket, as you can see on the left-hand side, and a cannon that you can see on the right-hand side. With the musket, the one that they showed on the website TurboSquid, that's the website we're working through to get these going. As you can see, it's a brown color. However, the image textures that they gave us for the actual object are only red, and we're currently working with TurboSquid to fix this issue so we can get the proper textures for the files. Canon itself was in a file type that we couldn't open with our computers, so we're working with a graphic designer on the side in order for him to help us convert that into a file type that we can use in our app.
Also from TurboSquid, we've acquired the 18-pound cannon, and we presented it to our graphic designer, who said he was going to be able to animate it so that it's reloadable and firing in the app. We've also came up with 3 different purchase request forms for our project owner. Each one presents a plan moving forward of how we can implement new objects within the app. We've divided them up differently so that we can present these to our graphic designer so that he can work on them as we present more information from our historical research team, so that the objects can be as complete as possible and as authentic as possible. Additionally, we have finished the IRB application for our group's user study for the interface of the application. All that's left is the information from the primary grade report research investigator, as well as the finished city certificates so that each group member can participate in the study.
We have a full narrative generated for the musket. We know that it is a French infantry musket commonly referred to as the Charleville, and it was the most common weapon used by Continental infantrymen during the Revolutionary War. It was a single-shot, muzzle-loaded flintlock musket, and it was crucial to securing American victory over Britain. The narrative will also go into the dimensions of the musket, the process of firing the musket, and the history of the musket.
In addition to the narrative on the musket, we've also developed a narrative for the 18-pound field cannon that would have been located at the battery at Fort Willis. The narrative goes into the number of men it would have taken to operate the cannon, the types of shots that it could have fired, and the tools necessary for operating it.
Our narrative for Colonel Willis consists of him giving the mission statement for the fort and the relationship of the fort to other forts on West Point. He talks about how the terrain is useful for the fort, and if the user chooses, they can go forward to learn more about the history of the regiment and the other regiments who served at Fort Willis. Additionally, we have been working on developing historically accurate graphics to send to the graphic designer. We have accurate depictions of the uniform for the matros, the lieutenant, and the colonel. Our big hang up right now is a accurate depiction of the fort. We have a cadet who has been helping us with an artistic depiction of the fort. However, there have been some hiccups in communicating exactly what we need. This photo shows what she has drawn for us so far. Clearly, it needs revisions, such as the stones at the actual fort were dry stacked. There was no cement in between the stones, and there was earth on top of the stones with the log and the earth holding it all together. She did a great job showing the log, and she knows that the stones are going to be an easy fix. She's also going to have a picture of the stairs leading up to the fort and a aerial view of the fort. Right now, it's just getting all those together in a historically accurate way to send to the graphic designer.
After our meeting with Colonel Sedgley resulted in us switching our focus to a classroom-friendly application, we needed to select the terrain surrounding the fort that we wanted to display. The terrain we chose allows the user to understand the importance of the fortification as well as the reasons for some of the fortification's dimensions. The terrain extends down to the Hudson to show the fort's view and the clear fields of fire for the 18-pound cannons that would have been located at the fort's battery. The high ground to the west allows the user to understand why the western walls of the fort were considerably higher, due to the fear that if the redouts to the west were lost to the British, Fort Willis would need to be able to defend to the low ground.
After we decided we wanted the terrain to be in the application as well, we were able to meet with Dr. O'Banion from the geography department, who has LiDAR screenings of all of West Point, and he's going to be able to get us an OBJ file of the terrain so that we can use in our application.
To explain the image to the left, this is a generated version of the terrain we requested. So this is just showing the elevation of the terrain. This is not necessarily a 3D model since this is only a dot projection of the elevation. So Dr. O'Banion could convert this file into a 3D model file in which he will send it to us, and we could use it on this program called MeshLab. Is a program that allows us to adjust 3D models. Using that, we could adjust the 3D models to be more historically accurate, like filling in the roads, scaling with the houses, stadiums, or anything that's modern. Also, we're going to imprint an image over this terrain, and the image is going to be the environment itself. So it'll be trees and other historical things around this terrain. So this requires a little bit more historical research. Finally, for hardware constraint, this file is projected to be large as he predicted. So he wanted us to give him a limit of the size of the file, and we gave him 50 megabytes to be the limit. So although the quality will be obviously lower than the larger file, but this is possible.
So to showcase our progress on the app, we're gonna play this video recording of us playing around on the iPad. So that's the title screen that we created with the West Point logo. It has two buttons, start and a map. So a start button will get you directly into the AR scene in which you could spawn objects. And the new feature that we added this sprint is the scroll functionality. And what you could do is you could scroll through different objects, and depending on the object you wanted, it would spawn. So the objects could co-spawn, so you could have multiple and different objects in the same scene at the same time. You could also click on the object to delete the object as well. So the pumpkin is what we showcased last time, and the musket is the new object we added in. So this is evidence of us working with the historical object. And then going back to the menu, so we're gonna go to the map. So that's our original app that we had before. It still has the same functionality. It goes to the new AR user interface that we created.
So one of the other big parts of the sprint that we did this time was making sure that we uploaded all of the changes we made to our app onto the App Store so that everyone could download it and be able to have it on their phones, and that we were continually keeping the App Store updated with this newest version of the technology we had. So right now it's at version 1.4 with bundle number 17. And the functionality that we put in was adding the scroll wheel, adding the option to go straight to AR view with the title screen, and additionally adding in iPad support. So now this app can be viewed on both the iPhone and the iPad. Additionally, also we made it so that you can view any of the augmented reality objects wherever you are, no matter what. We took away all of the location screening for it.
So as we reflect on this sprint, we found that it was really nice to meet with our stakeholder because we were able to confirm our vision and even change it, which was really helpful. Our second was we had poor planning, mainly because we met with our stakeholder after we'd already planned, and we did a poor job of adjusting our plans rather than just moving on with our project. And then also we were having problems with Trello and our burn down charts where they weren't lining up properly. As we look to the future and next semester, our next big thing that we want to get into the application is plane detection for our graphics. We still have other graphics that we need to purchase next semester, and as well as we want to continue to improve our user interface.